Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement. Before I jump into our third segment of the day, let me remind you guys, if you're thinking about getting into the game design or the esports industry, go ahead and check out Full Sail University. www.fullsail.edu/MLG is the website to go to get more information on Full Sail's programs in audio engineering, video production, 3D animation, game design, all these great educational programs that can help you get that extra level you need to get those jobs in the game design or esports industry. Of course, Full Sail University is MLG's official education partner. A lot of great stuff goes on in that university. So moving on to segment number 3. I want to talk about a really cool Hellbat timing build that Lucian does against Alicia in game number 2 of their series. First, we're going to talk about a couple of tricks into hiding your build order, and then also talk about Hellbat drops TvP and then executing this actual timing attack. So we're going to start this replay at the 6-minute mark. And one thing that's actually really important to mention, we're going to watch this from Lucian's point of view for now, is if you want to hide your build order, a lot of things where everyone makes a mistake on is they're like, okay, I'm going to put all my buildings in like one corner of my base, like up here or even down here. Whatever corner you think is least likely to be found, you put all your buildings there. And the thing is if your opponent scouts you and they see nothing, they're going to keep scouting. They're going to be suspicious, right? The best way to hide a build is put the buildings that could look like a different build in a normal spot, and then in a corner of your base that is unlikely to be found, you put the one building that would give away your build. So of course he's going for some Hellbat drop play, right? What he's gonna do is he can put the armory up here, but if the rest of the base is scouted, the pro would also say, okay, it looks like a Whittle Mine drop followed by the Stim Bile, right? Normal stuff. And what that means is they'll stop scouting because they've already scouted what they think you're gonna do, which is exactly we can see what Alicia does right here, right? Look at from his point of view, since Hallucinate Phoenix. He sees, okay, I see a starport, Barracks Tech Lab, factory with a reactor. This is, it's a Widow Mine drop, obviously, right? Because that's like a very common build. And so he knows that. So he's going to put, of course, the cannons in his worker lines, and he's just going to progress up to a normal game. Very, very, very key point there. When you want to hide your builds, very important to not hide everything. I mean, if it's like a proxy Stargate, of course, that's a different story. But like a tech choice, if you want to go, let's say you want to go like battle cruisers, you don't need to hide all your starports. So you can show them 1 or 2 starports and then hide the fusion core and your extra ones, things like that. So he's going for the Hellbat drops, and this is where I want to talk about executing this Hellbat drop. So because he's going to follow this up with a timing, right? Because he knows that, the priority isn't to suicide the Hellbats to try to kill as many probes as possible. The priority is 1, to force out that photon overcharge, and 2, to try to escape with the medevac and the Hellbat if possible. Because what he wants to do, he wants to burn that Mothership War energy, he wants to keep his total unit count alive because he's going to follow this attack up with a timing. Now, yes, it's nice I think he got 1 probe kill there. It's nice to get as many probe kills as possible. Of course, obviously, you're going to target the probes, but you don't want to suicide all your units for probe kills like you would if you're going hardcore macro, and you don't really care about the Hellbats because you're not going to use them later. If you're going to use them as part of your timing attack, it's going to be part of your strategy. You want to make sure to try to preserve them, but also try to make sure to force out those photon overcharges. So again, going in for the second little drop here. And this time, right, he's going to come in here. Photon overcharge gets used. He drops his guys. He's going to see if he can kill a couple probes. Then he wants to get out before the medevac could potentially die. Unfortunately, he misjudges it by like literally, one photon overcharge shot. He probably, I think his cooldown was a second for going. He probably could have zipped it and gone over to Stalker before could have shot as well. So a slight misjudgment there, but you can see the goal of the build. Force out both those photon overcharges. Now the most requires low energy, and so his next time attack is going to be much, much, much more scary. Now, this isn't a super all-in attack. He could have made an all-in. I think it would have been a very good all-in to do from you actually just pull a bunch of probes. And then instead of you wouldn't have this 4th command center, you probably would actually build a second. You probably would have built another barracks, another factory earlier, and done a little bit differently. But maybe even built like a Raven or a Banshee to help support this. I don't know I wasn't fond of his exact gas minerals resources. But the idea is, it's a timing. He's going to try to do damage, and of course, he's going to build a lot of barracks. He's going to build engineering bay for upgrades, all the normal macro stuff behind a 3rd CC. But when you execute the timing, the important thing is look at this. This is the most important part of the timing. Is to understand, I mean, most of his army right now, not resource-wise, but power-wise, is the Hellbats, right? They're not the most expensive part of his army, but the power-wise, they're the ones that give that attack the punch. And the thing you realize about Hellbats is they're the strongest unit in the game stat-wise. I mean, well, Ultralisk might be slightly better, but you know, Ultras have a worse armor type. So I think overall, probably Hellbats are the strongest unit in the game stat-wise. But their weakness is they're slow, right? And so a Protoss opponent can kite away from them. They can use force fields to basically prevent the Hellbats from entering the battle. There's a lot of techniques you can do, micro techniques, to manipulate and take advantage of slow units, even if they're very powerful in their combat stats. So this is the key part. Put the Hellbats in as many medevacs as you have. Load all those guys up with Hellbats. When the battle starts, ignite afterburners, drop the Hellbats right on top of their army. Now, the weakness for this strategy is if your opponent has 10 Stalkers, they're just going to, you know, kill. You're going to lose a bunch of medevacs trying to fly in there. This also applies against Zerg if you're using that strategy, or also it can also apply against in Terra Mirror. Your Mech Mirror, dropping Hellbats top of the tanks, very, very great. But if you have a lot of Marines, a lot of Stalkers, a lot of anti-air, this type of technique doesn't work. But for the timing, this early in the game, right, this is 1040. Alicia doing a double forge opening is not going to have a lot of anti-air, right? In fact, he only has 6 Stalkers and 2 Sentries, right? So that's not enough to kill the medevacs super quickly, which means you can get these Hellbat drops off very quick. And if you can close the distance and get on top of that, you go right past the Time Warp because it doesn't affect your units. Get right past, right on top of the units. And with the Hellbats with the high stats, they can shred those Stalkers very quickly. I mean, the Marauders actually didn't even shoot the Stalkers very much. The Stalkers, it wasn't even the Marauders. It was really the Hellbats that took out those Stalkers. And then from here on out, of course, he's just going to win, right? Because he's got a bunch of units. He's going to kill a bunch of key structures, deactivate stuff, and then just run around and kill guys. So, you know, Alicia loses this game. Alicia wins game 2. And it was a really cool time attack. I know it wasn't the longest replay, not a lot of crazy tactics, but this is a time attack that's very fun to do. You guys might want to try it on the ladder. And a couple things to keep in mind when you do it. One, when you hide the build, don't hide all your buildings. Don't proxy everything random locations. You can expect a Protoss will scout with Hallucination or an Observer. You can kind of show them what they would expect to see from a normal build. And then you just hide that key armory because the armory is what gives that build away. Make sure you don't see that. Number 2, when you do the Hellbat drops, don't dive crazy after probes. The priority is forcing Photon Overcharge, which they pretty much have to do against Hellbat drops. But also, make sure you don't lose that medevac or the Hellbats if possible. And then third, in the battle, use that Ignite Afterburners to drop the Hellbats on top of the Protoss army to mitigate Time Warp, to mitigate Force Fields, to mitigate the slow movement speed of the Hellbat, and of course, the low range of the Hellbat. You want the medevacs in your army anyway. Why not use them to basically supplement the weaknesses and the downsides of the Hellbat? So wraps up analysis of segment number 3. We'll take a short break and be right on to the Q&A.